Hi, it's Maggie Lockwood, and welcome to Pharmacy Technology and Management Review's Direct Access video series. Today, we're going to address the topic of sunset notices. This is something that anyone with technology is familiar with. You're used to a system, you rely on it, and you find out that the vendor is going to be phasing it out. We're going to hear from DataScan's Kevin Manassian and Sarah Cariolis about what to do when you get a sunset notice. We're going to talk about how it's an opportunity rather than a disruption. And it's very important to pick a vendor who can address the needs of your pharmacist. Kevin, as many in the industry know, is very much a proponent of independence, both in pharmacy and with the vendors who serve the pharmacists. Kevin and Sarah will share their expert advice on what to consider when a sunset notice lands on your desk. And this isn't just about keeping the lights on, it's about empowering your pharmacy to thrive. I hope you enjoy the episode.
The themes that came for me from the article is the fact that this is becoming more common and that you don't want to rush into making a decision or feeling pressured to move to the software that's being presented to you by your current vendor, and then kind of dovetail into the benefits of being an independent vendor working with independent pharmacy, because I think that's part of what makes you all
right.
special. So why don't we just start there? Give us a little bit of background about the trend you're seeing and why you think it's important to talk about it.
Well, so, if you go back 10, 15, 20 years ago, we had a lot more competition. At one point, we had 40, 50 software vendors that we competed with. Over the years, we've seen, obviously, a lot of changes. We've seen a lot of acquisitions happen, big private equity investors coming in, swooping up these companies and then buying more and then bringing them all together. And sometimes what happens is they take a look at their oldest technology or their least profitable divisions, and then they say, okay, now we have to look to sunset this product. It's tough for you to say we're going to support 4, 5, 6 different software companies or software. It's difficult to do that because it's hard to train people across all the different products. So now you've got a lot more staff, a lot more costs. And if you're owned by private equity, if you're owned by one of these investment groups, the goal is to make these companies more profitable so you can turn around and sell them after 4, 5, 6 years. We've seen it a lot. Some of the companies I compete with, I've watched them change ownership 2, 3 times in the last 6 to 8 years. All of a sudden, you're a pharmacy doing business using the same product for what could be decades, and you get a notice. And they don't even like to use the word sunset. Sunset is a software industry term. The first sign that your software is going to be sunset is typically they'll reach out to their customers and start offering them a demonstration on their other products and a free, no-cost move to that product. Because the more people that they can move over, the less support staff, the less programmers they need, they can start shaving costs. That's usually the first sign.
From the pharmacist perspective, when they get notice, they do start to look at other software systems because it's like starting over for them many times.
Well, some of them
been on a system for, like you're saying, like decades.
Some of them do. Usually, though, it doesn't start with hey, we're going to end support. We're sunsetting it. We're ending support. They'll use terms like that. What they'll normally start with is the very beginning stages are seeing who will voluntarily move over. Hey, we've got this product. It's much better, much more advanced, and we'd love to move you over to it. When they're done with that, it's like round number 2, and round number 2 is, okay, who are the people that fought it, that don't want to? And we'll slowly try to work them into, listen, we're going to eventually have to end of life the product or stop support on the product. And that's when pharmacy owners, business owners in any industry should open their eyes and say, before I just sign up with this company's other or alternate product that they own, unless you are absolutely ecstatic with the way management and the support staff and everything has been going for you, you have options. These folks sometimes make it seem like you don't. Or they'll make it look like it's going to cost you so much more money that it's cost prohibitive for you to look to a vendor outside of their balloon, outside of what they own and what they run. And that's not true, because vendors like us years ago said, If you're willing to sign into a long-term contract with us, we'll pay for your conversion. And long-term, 3 to 5 years, depending, the more you're willing to sign in, the more we're willing to give. We're willing to invest in you and pay for your conversion, pay for your data move, pay for our staff to come on site in some instances, depending on your volume and your length of contract. In some instances, we cover all costs, like every penny to bring somebody over, because this is a valuable customer. This pharmacy's been around for X amount of years. They're doing a good amount of business, and we'll make it back over time. Sometimes it could take us 12 plus months to get our investment back, but we're willing to do it if you're willing to believe in us and you're willing to make the commitment to us. And a lot of people know that.
I think that fits into this idea of being a reliable partner, right? What you're saying is don't just switch software because it's least amount of resistance is to go with what you know, so to speak. The pharmacist wants to look for someone, for a vendor who's going to actually work with them, like you're talking about.
And we look at it like this, right? If they're sunsetting the product today and they're pushing you to their other system, right? Who owns them? Think about that. Because if they're owned by one of these huge investment companies, understand that who owns them today is not who's going to own them 6, 7, 8, 10 years down the road. You could, God forbid, find yourself in the same position down the road if they acquire another company or decide that the division or the software product that the prior management pushed you to, maybe that's not working so well for them anymore. And maybe one day they decide to sunset that, because there are a lot of these vendors that are out there that even when they're done sunsetting products, they're still supporting 2, 3 other systems. The next group of management, the next company owners may turn around and say, we don't want to support 2 or 3 products. We want to support 1. And so you may wake up in the same position again. And those are things that people, they don't think about. They get the salesperson on the phone from the company that they're working with, and they listen to everything they're told, and they don't go out there and shop. Our message is don't look at only data scan. We're saying, look at your options. We are one of probably a handful of independently owned vendors left. There's a couple of other companies out there that are holding tried and true, family owned, some with second generation in place to take over. And it's worth taking a look at them, because if they, I'll tell you right now, and I know our competition, a lot of us as independents, we're going to give you better support. We're going to give you a level of attention like you've never seen, because we're not that big. You know, we're not supporting 8,000 or 6,000 accounts. Think about it. You're an independent pharmacy. We've been saying this for years. You could never understand why a patient of yours would go down the road to Walgreens or CVS, because there's no way that they're going to get the level of attention and kindness. And let's face it, when you're sick and you just want to get your medication and go home, oh, Mrs. Jones, let me help you out. Oh, you know what? Let me fill that for you. CVS and Walgreens, they're not doing that. We'll send you a text when it's ready. You don't get the same level of service. We're out of local banks here on Long Island.
Mm-hmm.
I always did business with local banks. Always, 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 always. And it was the best, especially when the internet stuff started getting big. And we started getting internet access to our accounts. And I had money stolen, $15,000 stolen, transferred between 2 of my accounts and then transferred out overseas.
Really?
First question I got was from the VP of the bank, who else has access to your account? At the time, it was nobody else. Not even my bookkeeper at the time had it. She knew me. She knew my family. She knew us a long time. She had that money back in my account the next morning. Contrastly, I had another bank, a national bank that holds the mortgage for my building here. Just a few years ago, somebody got into the account, transferred money out, stole the money, and I had a fight with them to the point where I actually had to go to a government agency and put a complaint in against them for them to turn around, and the bank didn't like that complaint, and they then refunded my money. I use that as a parallel because, you know, independent pharmacy, the small bank, the small independently owned software vendor, just like back in the days when, if you were in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, I mean, everybody did business with Kinray as a wholesaler.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
when Stewie Rahr built that company up, one of the biggest things he did was, we're going to offer multiple deliveries a day. People loved it, right? The big guys couldn't touch them. And that's why he sold for over $1 billion to one of the big guys when he was ready, because nobody could do what he was doing. He pioneered here in this area. And people love that about that place. You know, it's hard to find independently owned wholesalers these days. I get it. It stinks. You know, a lot of people are going away, and it's you know, and it's a shame that America in a lot of ways is turning to all these big corporations. But if you have the option to do business with companies like ours, why wouldn't you take it? We don't own another software platform. Neither does Liberty. Neither does SpeedScript. You know, there's a lot of companies out there. These folks, SRS in Michigan, we're independently owned. We own one platform. We support one platform. All right. There's not going to be a sunset issue with us.
So tell me, give me some example of when this happened recently. Pharmacists, you're talking to a pharmacist who gets a sunset notice. What is their main concern? Or what questions do they not ask? What's the experience like for them?
Sarah, you would be good to answer that.
Well, I think one of their biggest concerns is logical, right? Is this going to happen to you guys? Are you a viable option? Is it something that we're going to be with you long term, because we don't want to have to do this again? So after kind of talking about all the things that Kevin was just mentioning, I think they feel a little bit more at ease. Um, but one of the things that we always ask them is, what's the service like? What's the support like? What's your pricing like? Because like Kevin also said, right, if you're not happy with what they're offering on one platform, what makes you think that you're going to like it just sliding over to another product that the same company owns? So those are some concerns for people. And we always we put them at ease. You know, we talk with them about our history, what makes us different. We parallel a lot of the things that he was just mentioning, big chain pharmacy versus the independent pharmacy. And if we offer them a product that competes with what they're used to, or what's on the market, if our pricing is better and it's something they can afford, and if you read about us and you have experience or hear from, you know, from friends or get referrals about our service and support, they're comfortable. And that's the biggest thing, at least for me, when I'm talking to people, is making sure that they're comfortable and knowing that they're not going to be put in the same position anytime soon.
Right, because I mean, I assume just from having talked to pharmacists that training their staff, moving over to a new system is a big step. It's a big workflow disruption. And so
It used to be a lot worse. I'll tell you right now.
really?
And I would say not just us, but I would say a lot of our competitors have finally gotten it down to a science where a lot of us are very good at it. It's not just data scan. I will say we have a lot of competitors of ours. They build teams, they train teams. And so it used to be a nightmare. I mean, getting the data right to begin with was horrible.
Right.
And over time, we worked closely with, our conversion partners such as, InfoWorks, and, we really fine tuned it. We've got very detailed checklists that the customers go in, that we log them into a virtual machine at their own leisure. They can log in 24 hours a day and take the time to go through that checklist and, check doctors, check patients, check, patient history, whatever. And we tell them, don't rush it. We're not in a rush, and you shouldn't be in a rush either, because, as it is, you're going to learn a new system. It's going to be a lot easier if when you go live, all your data is correct.
Mhm.
So that that we've gotten down very good. It's very rare that we have major changes at all that we have to do once we go live. So now you come in and now you've got a good data set. It's all in the right field. It's all in the right format. And so that's great, right? And then, we put staff on site. We've got training. We have an educational area in the back end of our website that people log into. They can watch videos, read documents, and that's for them to do at their own leisure as well. But then we also do pre-training before we ever show up. We do a remote pre-training that they get with our head trainer. And then when we go on site, usually our guys are there Monday through Friday. It's rare that they're there less than a week. They're typically there operating the store, converting it over, working with the staff, 2 people. In a very big, busy store, obviously, we will send 3. I don't think we've ever had to send 4. And they're working side by side, running that pharmacy every day, all week long. They'll stay late. We pay overtime to my staff. They'll stay late without a problem. Heck, they're buying the pharmacy's dinner. They're taking the managers out to dinner. They take pictures and send them to Sarah, and she shares them with me. And by the time these guys leave, they're like family. And so, our team of guys, our core guys that go out and do this, they're phenomenal. Like I always tell them, you're very unique for what you do, because, I joke around, a lot of IT guys, they don't like dealing with people. I mean, I have guys that, program that the last thing they want to do is get on the phone with a customer. They're not people. They're not a people person, right? Yeah. But my 2 guys, my head project manager and our system project manager, they're very, very good technically. They know all of our software products like the back of their hand, but they're also so personable. They have people laughing. And so, I look, I know that we're not the only ones that have worked hard to do that. So the conversion process, the good news is it's easier for people to board with us. The bad news is that I will tell you, I have seen people more apt and ready to leave over the silliest things sometimes than in the past. because I think they know that it's easier.
It's easier to change. I mean, I think that's one thing we want to talk about is the advantages of the customer support you offer. So,
Well, look, customer support when you're in this industry, it's kind of like I look at it like like when we program, right? My programmers, some guys that come in and they've never been in this industry, they can't understand, why we can't build a change into the system, build a bunch of changes in the system, but not release them and hold on to them and test the heck out of them for months on end. I'm like, this industry doesn't allow for that. Like it just moves too quickly. And whether it's regulatory or something a customer is insisting on or needs in the software, or something's happened where it's changed and there's this drag or this delay or inefficiency that's now been caused because of some kind of a change, the way a claims are being handled or whatever it is, they want these changes yesterday. Not to mention the fact that, of course, competitively, all of us in the software industry, we're always trying to race, out there and get all of our products updated with all the features because, you get people calling up for demonstrations and, oh, well, I saw this with that guy and I saw that with that guy. If you can't demo it and show them you have it, you're not getting those customers.
right.
So speed is important here. It's important for development. It's important for testing. It's important for releasing, but it's also equally, if not more important, for the support side of it because your patients are standing there, they want their medications. And if you've got a problem, whether it be getting a claim approved or, you're having a problem with the software and you don't understand it, you need somebody picking up the phone quick. And, I will say that we have heard some of the larger companies, you call in and you wait on hold. If you wait on hold here more than a minute or two, that's something's wrong. We don't have that. We usually have staff ready to answer the phones in less than 60 seconds or less. That's our typical response time. And then even like nights and weekends, they get back within 10 minutes or less on average. So you're never really sitting there waiting to help anybody. There are instances where you get immediate support nights and weekends. It all depends on the flow and how much is going on. So yeah, that is super important. But I think that you've seen a lot of changes, whether it be companies just simply saying we're no longer going to have this product, and we're not supporting it anymore. We saw it a couple of years back with McKesson. They sunset 2 of their software out of the 3 software products they had. They had a deal they made with one of the other vendors we compete with, and we went out there and told people, hey, you know what? Like, you have options. You could go with them, but you could look at us too. And, we did get quite a bit of business from that. And we are also seeing, like I said, that where they're slowly but surely you're hearing, Sunset a couple years ago, Cerner, sunsetting their product. Most recently, was it the PCCA product, Sarah? What was it?
RX Dispense.
RX Dispense just sunset, and a lot of folks that are compounding pharmacies really wanted, something that was going to be good and robust for them to switch over to. We got a lot of people that switched over because we have a very, very strong compounding system. And so we're seeing that. We're seeing that happen a lot more and more. And so we want people to know, well, you have options, go out there, do your research.
Talk a little bit about the research. Do you think it's better that they ask specifically about what they need in their pharmacy versus what their current system does? Meaning you're going to switch pharmacy systems because your system's going to be phased out. When you're doing that research, is it better to look about what you're trying to do in the future with your pharmacy or just replace what you're doing?
Absolutely. First of all, you can't be short-sighted. I've owned businesses for 25 years. And I got to tell you, I've never, no matter how well the company's doing, I've never, ever believed that my business is ever going to be on autopilot. Anybody who thinks like that is in trouble. Look at what happened to Blockbuster. Did you ever think Blockbuster would be a thing of the past? I mean, and then Netflix came in, and Netflix would have been a thing of the past if they didn't migrate away from those silly boxes they had outside of, I think it was 7-Elevens or whatever. But look at them today, and take it another level. Take it to another level. Even looking at Netflix and how they've evolved, right, as a business. It started with the boxes, and then it went to live streaming abilities, and now look at them. They're basically like their own little movie studio. I mean, they're making these productions. I'm obsessed with so many of their shows. Where am I going with this? Well, it's the same thing with your business. You might be like, no, I don't want to do these things today. But tomorrow, if you're not making the money you need, or maybe you have a second generation child come in, or maybe you have a change in your life and you need that money, something may occur that snaps in the head and you say, you know what? I'm so tired of PBM screwing me. I have to get into compounding. Or, you know what? I'm looking at my buddy over there and he's killing it in the long-term care sector. I have a home that opened up down the road. I'd love to be able to service them. Whatever it is, you don't know where your business is going to go, but you should know that you have the ability to do those things. And is it going to cost you more money? And what is it going to cost you if that is the fact? You obviously definitely need to know the most important things that you can't live without in your day-to-day life through your workflow. Those are super important. Obviously, that should be part of your checklist during a demonstration and asking the person doing the demo. And then talk about your pain points. Talk about the things in your existing system or with your existing vendor that you're looking to avoid. You should really make a list of pros and cons and list out there what you have, what you don't have, what you wish you had. Take the time. And then the question is, well, how do you find a vendor? Some people just call up their friend. Oh, you like that system? I mean, listen, they may love that system, but is it going to work for you?
Mm-hmm.
That's good to get that recommendation. You should look at that system if your friend in the industry loves it. But I got to tell you, when I look for something, I go on the internet and I never, ever, ever trust the first website I read. I don't. I've learned over the years that and I saw this 15, 20 years ago, now this was 20 plus years ago with my first business in a different industry, that, this company that was selling stuff online, they built a website that was supposed to be, it was based on reviews. They would talk about the technology. They would give you all kinds of information about this new technology, and then they would tell you where to buy it. And I told them I was going to expose them if they didn't put me on their website, and they did. And I got a lot of business from it. Here in our industry, I expose it all the time. If you go look for pharmacy software reviews online, you're going to come across pharmacysoftwarereviews.com. That is owned and operated by Pioneer RX. I don't know if they still have the disclaimer on the site. They had it for a while, then they took it off, then they put it back. How the heck could you trust a website, no matter how much they try to claim that they used a third-party company? And the third-party company they use, by the way, is a marketing company. And it's what it is. You can look it up. We looked into it ourselves. They're a marketing company. To do their quote-unquote, get their statistical data together or gather their statistical data. No, you don't. That's not something you rely on. But however, you can go online and search for pharmacy software, and you will find a lot of independent websites out there. Right. Some of them run by a company called Gartner, Capterra, Software Advice. They have the Get app. Then you've got the G2 Crowd. There's a lot of these sites out there that are absolutely independent. They're running their own show, and so you can trust those.
PTMR have our own little section of vendors.
And that's good, because you guys are not necessarily linked to anyone in particular. You're right. Servicing the whole industry. We're all advertising with you. We're all working with you.
Right.
So that's important. I got to tell you, when I'm shopping for a product and I see an advertisement, something online, when you search for reviews, right, of the product, what happens? Always, inevitably, I find these websites that I can quickly see, if I dig, how they're linked back to the company that makes the product. But I always love to go on Amazon and see,
interesting.
Is this product sold on Amazon? Mm-hmm. And if it has 15, 20 reviews and they're great, that doesn't mean crap to me. I can get 15, 20 friends to go out there and write reviews for me. But what if it's a product that has hundreds or thousands of reviews out there? You can click on that review icon. You could see the percentage of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 star reviews. You could and then obviously you can read and dig into those reviews. You'll get a really good sense if that's a good product or it's not. Mm-hmm. Right? That's awesome. And if it's not sold on Amazon, I'll look for other independent sites that are reviewing the product that I know can't be tied back. If it looks even remotely sketchy, I don't even put any stock into it, because it doesn't mean anything. But if I see the same product across different sites consistently reviewed great, it gives me the confidence to know that that's something I want to look into buying.
When the pharmacist gets the notice that they're going to phase out / try to move them over to another system, want to make sure there are no hidden fees. I want to hear a little bit more about that.
So you're going to get a quote, and the quote, usually what a lot of these folks will do, they'll zero a bunch of stuff out, but you got to read the quote carefully, read any fine print carefully, and most importantly, take a look at what your fee schedule is going to look like. What are you signing into? Are you signing into, number one, are you signing into a contract for X amount of years? Are there any penalties to get out of that contract? And what are those penalties? Most people have them for good reason. And take a look at the contract and question every fee in terms of, you should have a very detailed breakdown of your monthly costs, okay? I will tell you that, again, we look at the idea, and I come back to it because it's important. People don't understand private equity. What do? They make money for their investors. Well, how are they making more money? There's not a whole influx of new independent pharmacies opening. Believe it or not, we do see people opening them, but it's not a lot. So now, your business, the only way for you to grow it is either by converting people from competing systems and finding people that are willing to make that change, right? Or you have to raise your fee structure, right? You have to charge, or you have to cut your costs, right? If you cut your costs, you may be taking away services, you may be taking away, support staff, management. Things may not run as smoothly or as well as they did prior. And if you raise the prices, a pharmacy doing 1,000 scripts a day might not care, or they may care if they start paying attention how much it's really costing them. But, a guy that's, doing a lot less business and really focused on trying to keep their costs down, all of a sudden you've got companies like Pioneer RX, for example, with what they call a RX usage fee that a lot of people don't understand. So they're marketing themselves as 1 penny switching, okay? But you're also getting an 8.6 cent usage fee. So essentially what that means is they say it's only for prescriptions that are picked up. Well, hopefully in your business, that's the majority of them, the ones that are successfully sold at the register, right?
Right.
But so anything that is going through insurance, third party, right? You're paying the 1 penny to hit the switch, and the 8.6 cents, you're paying 9.6 cents. The majority of us have been at 7 cents, and some a little bit less for years. So now you're up to 9.6 cents. That adds up, right? Now they're charging that 8.6 cents even on cash prescriptions. You're a compounding pharmacy, or you're doing a lot of compounds, or you have a business for cash for whatever reason it is. Anything that's running through that pharmacy system, regardless of cash or not, regardless of insurance or not, now you're paying 8.6 cents for every single one of those prescriptions. Okay. And then the question is, what are the other fees included? There's a lot of folks out there that are holding tried and true to a very, very high e-scripts price. Finally, the FTC did what they should have done years ago, and they broke up the monopoly that was SureScripts. Okay. And so with that, now all of a sudden pricing has to come down because competition is opening. A lot of people don't know that. I mean, if you're paying 13 cents for an e-prescription versus 18.5 cents for an e-prescription, and you're doing thousands of prescriptions a month, I mean, we have pharmacies that could do 12, 15, 20,000 prescriptions a month. Look at those numbers, run those numbers, and then multiply it times a year. People don't realize that. You wake up, all of a sudden, you're spending $10,000, $15,000 more a year than you could be with a competitor. Right. Why? Are they really doing something that amazing for you? Because I can tell you that the majority of us have a lot of the core technology and a lot of the really neat features that you see out there. A lot of us have that stuff, and some of the features that some vendors are pushing may be something that's very useful to you, depending on the type of business, may not be, or maybe what Sarah and I like to call smoke and mirrors features, stuff that, they'll tell you it's making you money. They just can't prove it is. We've seen that. We've seen that a lot. We tried to build a feature into our system a couple of years ago. I had this idea where you would actually see different NDC numbers would reimburse differently from different plans, and there would be, equivalents. So we were aggregating data and we were trying to see, but when I literally went in there, I stood at the pharmacy, and when I tried to switch different NDCs between the same plan on the same day, it didn't matter. They were reimbursing them the same. So what we started to see was, yes, the reimbursements are changing, but it's not on the same exact day. It could be a day or 2 or 3 or 4 apart. And who has time to go back there and start playing with all that, reversing it all? Right. And so we started to pull away from that. But I could have marketed, if I was dishonest, like I've seen all over the world, I could have turned around and marketed that and said, we're going to pick the best NDC that's going to get you the highest reimbursement. And people will buy into stuff like that without actually having the proof.
Right. Well, I mean, I think you're making a very good point that as a pharmacist, you can't afford to lose money that way. And you want someone who's looking out for you. And you're basically saying Datascan's going to look out for you. You're going to look out for this pharmacy.
I know that we do. I know that we will. My father, started the company 44 years ago. I bought it 15 years ago. And he grew up in a communist country and in Europe, and I was always brought up that if you do right by people and you're an honest person, you'll be able to sleep great at night, and you never have to worry about anybody coming to disrupt you, your life, your business. So I don't care if it's former employees, I don't care if it's vendors we do business with, customers. Hell, I don't even worried about, the IRS. I pay my taxes, I do what I'm supposed to do, and I sleep like a baby. So we are very honest because I don't want to worry about the chickens coming home to roost and my life going up in flames. Big companies that have lots and lots of layers, who did what? Who's going to take the blame? And so you gotta, I think it's something to be said about working with somebody that has their face behind the company. And that goes for me, and it goes for a lot of the companies I mentioned earlier in this podcast that, I know a lot of these people. I knew a lot of the owners of these companies that are no longer, there,
Right.
and that sold off.
Mm-hmm.
They were wonderful people that you could trust with anything. Some of them I still keep in touch with,
Right.
And so there's without a doubt something to be said about that. And the question is who do you want to do business with? Is it someone you trust? Is it someone that isn't going to turn around and sunset the product and God knows X amount of years and you're back to square one again? Is it someone that has a reputation and background? And it's crazy. I even told Sarah recently, I said, you know what? Some of the articles that we're doing, we're even talking about us personally and our ages. I'll be 48 in November. Sarah, I won't tell you her age, but she's not even 40. I'll give her that. And you're talking about me, the owner, and Sarah, my right hand, my vice president, who's been working in pharmacy north of 20 years. Because she started as a teenager, working in a retail pharmacy and worked her way up to head tech, helped manage that pharmacy. She was a client of ours actually, and eventually, when she was ready to move on, we were lucky enough to get her here. She started at the bottom here. Sarah started in support. She's done support. She's done sales. She helps with the day-to-day operations here. You've got a young team of management that's running this company. We're not running out the door to retire.
Right.
And I think there's something to be said about that too. And again, I know a company in particular that I compete with, that, it's a father-son operation. The son I think he's actually younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the transition and what hopefully will happen there. Just like we hope that, independent pharmacies can sustain this and hopefully some of this PBM reform starts to kick in. Some of the promises we're seeing from our government, hopefully they will do some things because, it's nice. I got to tell you, and I said this to Sarah recently, I am very, very, I'm glad to see that more and more of the clients of ours, that when we see them sell, they're selling to other independents.
Right.
We're seeing less and less chain sales, which I think maybe a good sign for independents to stay around a little bit longer, as long as these people can open their eyes and stop trying to make all their money on prescription sales. It's not going to happen. It's not 1989 anymore.
Right.
You got to consider compounding. You got to consider LTC. You got to consider DME. You got to build a front end around your local community that supports it, but also, educate that community. We have this big box mentality, I'm going to go to the Price Club, Costco now. I'm going to go to Sam's Club, it's going to save me all this money. They think about that. Oh, CVS, look at their buying power. I looked at this hair stuff that I use at one of my clients at very high-end stores. He's got two in very, very, very nice areas, two or three in nice areas in Brooklyn, and then all out in the Hamptons on the east end of Long Island. You go to the Hampton stores, forget it. I mean, the guy has a candle for $85, and I laughed at him. I go, the candle's this big. I said, what are you doing? He goes, are you kidding me? They come in, they buy this crap. He goes, I don't care. I make a fortune. He goes, I don't even care. Pharmacy does 100 prescriptions a day, 300 prescriptions a day. He goes, they love coming in. They buy the cosmetics. They do all the stuff.
Right.
He's got a great business because of the community that supports it. I know that not everybody is in a community that has that kind of money.
Mm-hmm.
In the Brooklyn area, it's a very different type of store. But I got to tell you, I picked up this thing. I looked at it, and it was like $17.99 or something at his fancy store in Brooklyn. And I think CVS was like $20 or $21.
Yeah.
Look at that percentage difference. That's a big percentage difference.
Mhm.
And here we are all walking around thinking, oh, yeah, they've got all this buying power. And so people assume it and they start buying their OTC there. Years ago, the Cardinal Show, they had a statistic up and we used it in some of our articles. And it was amazing to see the percentage of folks that walk out of a chain with or without OTC purchases versus out of a independent, because they're not getting that education of, they're not seeing that we're cheaper. Do comparison sales.
Right.
Educate your community. I mean, today, Facebook alone, I can't believe the community I used to live in versus the one I live in today, both of them. Thousands of members. I think the other one was 3,000 or 8,000 members. This one's something like 12 or 15,000 members. A lot of them are transients, vacation people, whatever. But anyway, you've got a captive audience there.
Right.
And, if you don't overdo it, a lot of these groups, Sarah always says they have the moms groups, on Facebook and whatever. And then we have, the community groups. You could be promoting your business on there, the community and what you're doing for it, offered incentives, but also educate them there. And it's free.
Right.
You don't have to go take an article out in the local paper and spend a fortune. There's so many ways to promote your business from that perspective, even at the pharmacy counter or as they're walking down through the shelves and showing them how do a comparison, you against the local chain. Get people in that mentality, get that OTC business going.
Right.
They do that, these businesses will stay around a very long time, but they have to get into these things. They have to do it.
Well, I think that fits in also with the idea of the new, reports, the technology and the reporting and the power in the system that lets them spend less time actually on the nitty gritty of the business so they can think bigger picture of the business, like marketing the business or deciding what they want to be specialized in, whether it's compounding or doing, medical at home type services. The whole point is the pharmacy system is going to give them a lot more freedom to do that if it's automating mundane tasks that take up time.
And of course, and a lot of us, we are, today in 2025, we've, not just us, but again, all of us as an industry, we have the technology in there. Unfortunately, sometimes it's kind of a push or a fight to get people to adapt it, and that's something that, that's a whole other topic that we've talked about a lot is, you're paying for that technology. It's sitting there. It's ready for you to use it and automate a lot of your tasks so you can get a lot more done without needing a physical human being doing those things. Yeah, do it. Use the technology because it's going to save you money. Everybody knows that one of the biggest cost factors in life is time. Time is money. The more time you waste doing this, you could have been doing that. Some of my most successful pharmacy clients are the ones that, they take their time, they build up their business a little bit, they get to know their community, and then it gives them the ability to put a technician and a pharmacist behind the counter, and they step out from behind the counter, and now they really can focus on how they can build their business and make it better. They'll work a few days a week, but they'll take a few days a week and they'll stand out, at a high level business owner looking down at their business and how they can improve it and what their community needs. That's the best way to be able to run your business. There was a time where, when I came in to buy this business, I wanted to start in from scratch too. And I was helping with support and I was helping, working with the programmers. And I was doing every tiny little thing around, but I learned it then as I, then when I could tweak those areas and make them run more efficiently, then I was able to move my way up to where I don't do any of that anymore.
Right.
I have people that manage that and do that. It allows me to do other things that help me grow this company.
Right.
That's really what you want to do as any business owner. I don't care what industry you're in. And, using technology to, get things done quicker is without a doubt one of the most important things you can do.
Sarah, did you have anything else you wanted to add? I think we did cover all of our questions.
We went through everything. So I was going to mention this before, and I guess it's a good way to circle back and kind of close. But one of the big things for me, and I try and tell people when I talk to them and they're looking at systems, is really to think about the relationship and the partnership, because we push this idea that DataScan isn't just a software system for people. We truly come in and try to operate as another leg of their business, like a partner for them. And I think that working with people who operate with integrity is really important. And it goes back to what you were saying with ownership of independence versus having these big, corporations. And you can, again, circle it back to the whole chain pharmacy versus the independent pharmacy. Is you have folks that are they care about your business, and your pharmacy owners who care about their patients and the relationships with their patients, because those people are operating with integrity. And we have competitors that really just, they don't.
Mhm.
So that was I was trying to bring that point before when Kevin was talking, but I didn't want to interrupt him. But I think that's really important for people when they're looking into a partner for their business.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, because I think of the pharmacy industry, the pharmacy profession is under such stress from so many different areas that having your pharmacy vendor be on your side and sincerely supporting you is very important. So I think that is a good point to reiterate.
All right.
Well, thank you for doing this.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right,
Have
see
a
you
good
soon.
day.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.